A whole fortnight's fishing before us, Beregnog. Come across to us at the end of a fortnight, mind.
A fortnight, sir?
Excuse me, have you seen anyone pass by here? Sir, I am asking you, have you seen anyone along this riverbank tonight?
Kiehean fjarsin. Bretna on se aistiach. Niila fiosagan. Geith fi mynd a bech gŵramach.
An twigan to me. Nílach muidan seo.
I wish we had got the driver to interpret for us before he left. Strange that none of them knows why we're here. I suppose there's no chance of those fellows outside taking anything?
Not while we're about. Everything but the tent goes under lock in the provision chest.
Gumbiani dia dive, Ratho di ar an ober, Gumbed Rathoreb.
Good Lord. Whoever would have thought of this?
Let us go on a bit. It may reappear again. Anyhow, it is worth investigating. See? Isn't that mist or something over there to the right?
Away in a line with that great piece of rock? Seems as though we had come upon an oasis in this desert of stone. How beautiful!
There must be a waterfall or something over there. Perhaps it's our river come to light again. Let's go and see. That's a waterfall. I know the sound now. Take care! Look where you're going! Good Lord!
Come along, we'll have a look at it.
There's something queer about this place. I feel it in my bones. This was the outer wall of some prodigious structure. But where is the rest of it? Where is the house? Beregnog. Here, come and look at this. A book? In this place? Keep it safe. We shall have a look at it later.
Huck?
Let us get out of here. Look you, I would not spend the night in that place for all the wealth that the world holds. There is something unholy, diabolical about it. It seemed to me that the woods were full of vile things, you know? Yes. You've got it safely. Yes. Perhaps we shall learn something from it when we get back to the tent. We had better hurry, too. We're a long way off, and I don't fancy being caught out here in the dark.
We can't both read from it at once, so read the thing out loud. And mind, don't go skipping half the book.
I am an old man. I live here in this ancient house, surrounded by huge, unkempt gardens. The peasantry beyond say I am mad because I will have nothing to do with them. They tell an old story that the devil built this place. Little curved towers and pinnacles, like leaping flames, crown a circular body. I have decided to start a kind of diary. It may enable me to record some of the thoughts and feelings that I cannot express to anyone. Beyond this, I am anxious to make some record of the strange things that I have heard and seen during many years of loneliness in this weird old building. She had been mine only for a little while, then she had left me, as I thought, forever. For more than 80 years no one had lived here. I got the old place at a ridiculously low figure. I am not superstitious, but I have ceased to deny that things happen in this old house, things that I cannot explain, and, therefore, I must needs ease my mind by writing down an account of them, to the best of my ability. I live here alone with my old sister, who is also my housekeeper. We keep no servants, I hate them. I have one friend, a dog. Yes, I would sooner have old Pepper than the rest of creation together. He, at least, understands me, and has sense enough to leave me alone when I am in my dark moods. I must have been here some 10 years before I saw sufficient to warrant any belief in the stories current in the neighborhood about this house. Then, as the years passed, bringing age upon me, I became often aware of something unseen, yet unmistakably present, in the empty rooms and corridors. It was not Halloween. If I were telling a story for amusement's sake, I should probably place it on that night of nights. No. It was after midnight on the morning of the 21st day of January. I was sitting reading, as is often my custom, in my study. Pepper lay, sleeping, near my chair. At the arena's center stood a stupendous structure of green jade, an enormous replica of my own house. In no particular, save in color and its enormous size, did the lonely structure vary from this house in which I live. Kali, the Hindu goddess of death. Set, or Seth, the destroyer of souls. The old gods of mythology. There was an indescribable sort of silent vitality that suggested a state of life in death, deathless trance. Immortal. The thing turned and gazed in my direction. It opened its mouth, and the stillness broke with a deep, booming note. Still I was borne helplessly to meet it as it came toward me, swiftly and silently.
Pepper. Mary, what is the date?
The 22nd.
In the morning, I went down toward the pit to search the gardens, and Pepper came with me.
Pepper!
God forgive them. God forgive them. They will pay for this.
I left Pepper where he lay, and went after the thing that had wounded him. Finding nothing, I returned at once to Pepper.
Home, Pepper.
What has happened to him?
He has been fighting a wildcat. There are several about.
A pig, by Jove! What is the matter?
With a troubled voice to the gentleman, who lowers his gun and turns to her. The soundscape is quiet.
I am hunting the wildcat that wounded Pepper out of the bushes.
Stay where you are!
Why are you shooting?
Run! Run for your life!
Out in the gardens rose a continuous sound, the grunting and squealing of a herd of pigs. Yet there was sense in those swinish noises, a semblance of human speech, not a mere medley, but a rapid interchange of ideas. Then they moved, revolving slowly, and throwing out alternate scintillations of green and red. I knew then that they were eyes. Slowly, I traced the shadowy outline of one of the things. Then my thoughts flew back to that vision of the Plain of Silence, to the house I had seen there. So like this, that it might have been modeled from it.
Keep back! We want him. We want him. I can't let you in.
It was the rattle of bolts being unshot. That foolish sister of mine was actually unbarring the back door.
What's the meaning of this nonsense?
Do you mean to tell me you don't understand the danger? That you try to throw our 2 lives away in this fashion?
There is little to be afraid of now.
But you must be sensible and not attempt to leave the house for a few days.
You had better go to your room if you cannot behave rationally.
How do you feel, Mary?
At last, tired and cold with my long vigil, I resolved to take a walk through the house. I examined the study door. All was as I had left it the night before. My search of the ground floor showed me nothing fresh. Then the thought suggested itself to me, to have another glance round the cellars. I had not been into them since my hasty search on the evening of the attack. The great door slammed behind me, and the dust of ages burst from the stones. I piled the stones back upon the trap, that nothing might lift it from below.
Might I go down and see to the breakfast?
Very well, Mary. You may go down and see to the breakfast.
Promise me you'll not attempt to leave the house, nor meddle with the outer doors.
I promise, sir. I'll not leave the house, nor touch the doors.
Come, Mary, cheer up. Things look brighter. I've seen none of the creatures since yesterday morning, early.
The pantry wants restocking when you're able.
When I am certain it is safe.
That night, I slept in a bed, the first time for 2 nights.
Pepper is mending, rapidly. That wildcat might have done for him.
It came to me that the fallen masonry might have blocked the outlet of the stream, and if so, the pit must be filling. I was tremendously curious, though in a frightened way, to know to what infernal place that hole led.
I hear it. Be still, boy. Low growl. Do you hear that? Only the water, Master. It's too far to see.
If the fallen rock had blocked the stream's outlet, it might explain much of the rising water. Yet more than the landslip seemed necessary. I could imagine an earthquake or great explosion, but there had been neither. Then, I stood up, quickly, remembering that crash, and the cloud of dust that had followed. But I shook my head, unbelievingly.
God have mercy on my soul. What lies beyond?
Next day I came again to the cleft, with pepper, with rope, and candles. I would know where that hole led. The path tended downward somewhat, and to the left, until I found that it was leading me right in the direction of the house.
Pepper! Is that you? Thank goodness.
How he had contrived to scramble down the cleft, I could not conceive. He was dripping. He must have tried to follow me. The path led straight toward the house. Soon, we should be standing right beneath it. It occurred to me that, if I placed my candles round the edge of the hole, I should be able to get, at least, some dim sight of the place. I found, on counting, that I had brought 15 candles. And there was I, without my helpful gun, without light, depending solely upon my old friend Pepper to help me out of that hellish place. How I reached the house, I scarcely know. Of the days that followed, I remember still less. Without my sister's untiring love and nursing, I would not have been writing at this moment. When I recovered my senses, I found that I had been in bed for nearly 2 weeks. Nearly 3 weeks after the flood, I could totter into the gardens, but not as far as the pit. I dared not ask Mary how high the water had risen. It was not until a couple of days later that I reached the pit. A great lake now filled the ravine, its cold surface placid save where continuous bubbling and a sobbing gurgle marked the buried entrance. The underground pit was sealed and concealed from human curiosity forever. The great cellar, I knew now, was connected with the pit by the trap. I went down to make certain. Now, I could understand why the noises, on the first night of the invasion, had seemed to rise directly from under my feet. And the chuckle that had sounded when first I opened the trap. Evidently, some of the swine things must have been right beneath me. Were the creatures all drowned? Would they drown? Had they life, as we understand life, or were they ghouls? And so, I suppose the water goes on, thundering down into that bottomless hell pit. Sometimes, I have an inexplicable desire to go down to the great cellar, open the trap, and gaze into the impenetrable, spray-damp darkness. At times, the desire becomes almost overpowering, in its intensity. It is not mere curiosity that prompts me, but more as though some unexplained influence were at work. Still, I never go, and intend to fight down the strange longing, and crush it, even as I would the unholy thought of self-destruction. I live in a very strange house, a very awful house. Yet if I left, where could I go, and still obtain the solitude, and the sense of her presence, that alone make my old life bearable? Yes, though few know it, none now save my sister Mary, I have loved and, me lost.
Oh, my darling, my darling.
Leave that house. I beg you, leave it. It is a place given over, long ago, to evil.
Under grim laws that none here have knowledge of.
Could you have come to me elsewhere?
I could not.
Could you have come to me elsewhere?
Through tears, noise of eternity in my ears, we parted. She whom I love. Oh, my God.
A still sea glowing without a shore, no wind to trouble, no sound of oar. I knew this water long years ago, and yet I am carried, I know not how. The darkness leans on the glassing tide, and far in the mist there is one beside. Her face the pale I remembered best, lifted like light from the water's breast. I cannot cross, and she cannot come. The luminous sea lies wide and dumb. We reach.
And now, I come to the strangest of all the strange happenings that have befallen me in this house of mysteries. It occurred quite lately, within the month, and I have little doubt but that what I saw was in reality the end of all things. I have never been able to write these things down directly they happened. It is as though I must wait a time, recovering my just balance. I stared down at the shapeless heap that had once been Pepper. What can have happened? Then it occurred to me that this could only happen in a great space of time. Years and years. Last night I was a strong, though elderly man, now, only a few hours later. Hours. The body under that coating, that shroud of dust, was neither more nor less than my own dead shell. I did not attempt to prove it. I knew it now, and wondered I had not known it all along. I was a bodiless thing. Gradually, as time fled, I began to feel the chill of a great winter. With the sun dying, the cold must be extraordinarily intense. I wandered mentally amid modern theories and the old biblical story of the world's ending. Where was the sun traveling? Should I be doomed to stay, bodiless, upon the earth through the dark time that was coming? Slowly, the likeness to a sheet of fire disappeared, and I saw, plainly, the slowing beat of the sun stream. And all the time, the brightness of the fiery arc grew duller. Underneath, the world loomed dimly, an indistinct, ghostly region. I thought that perhaps one of the inner planets had fallen into the sun, becoming incandescent under that impact. That line of white fire seemed to suggest that the sun was yet rotating at an enormous speed.
The sun burns low, a dull and dying coal. I am borne upward and I cannot fall. Lies still and hushed as any grave. No wind, no tide, no living thing to save. A green star waxes in the failing dawn. Slow and cold, a strange and silent spot. I rise and know no end. Toward the light I cannot comprehend.
I looked round into the blackness and saw a multitude of eyes. As I stared, they increased and appeared to come toward me. Then a hideous swine noise rose up into the night, and, at that, I leapt from the window, out onto the frozen world. An age, it seemed, and there came a glow that told of the coming light. It grew, tardily. Then, with a loom of unearthly glory, the first ray from the green star struck over the edge of the dark sun and lit the world. Then the ground caved in, and the house, with its load of foul creatures, disappeared into the depths of the earth, sending a strange, blood-colored cloud into the heights. I remembered the hell pit under the house. A year may have gone by, or a century, and I was left, suspended, alone. The sun showed far in front, a black, circular mass, against the molten splendor of the great, green orb. Near one edge, I observed that a lurid glow had appeared, marking the place where the earth had fallen. By this, I knew that the long-dead sun was still revolving, though with great slowness. Out of the raining green, there had grown a boundless river of softly shimmering globes, each wrapped in a wondrous fleece of pure cloud. God, thou wert indeed gracious. It was she. I should like to have held her, but the glorious purity of her face kept me afar.
Dearest.
That was all, but I had heard, and in a moment I held her to me, as I prayed, forever.
I have been searching for you, my love, across the eons.
I had her, and, greater than this, she had me. I was waked from my happiness by a diminution of the pale and gentle light that lit the sea of sleep. My memory went back. It was thus that the darkness had come before our last parting.
I must leave before the sun of darkness blots out the light.
I may not stay longer, dear one. A little while.
Why could I not have gone with my love? And the white orb, which I had seen hidden in the shadow of the sun of darkness. What had eclipsed the green sun? Was the central sun a double star? The white orb and the green sun, were they one and the same? Had I passed into an invisible dimension? Was the green sun home to some vast intelligence? The thought was bewildering. Visions of the unnameable rose, vaguely. Had I come upon the dwelling place of the eternal? The thing I had expected came at last, suddenly, awfully. A vast flare of dazzling light. A streaming burst of white flame across the dark void. Across the threshold lay a great coping stone, identical, save in size and color, with the piece I had dislodged. The door was broken partly from its hinges, precisely as my study door had been forced inward.
Pepper?
There was no Pepper. Instead, I was reaching toward an elongated, little heap of grey, ash-like dust. I was dazed, stunned. Pepper had really passed into the land of shadows. At times, the metallic rattle of a dog's chain sounded faintly. It belongs to the dog I have bought since Pepper's death. I will not have him in the house, not after Pepper. Now that I am writing, let me record that I am certain there is something horrible about to happen. Somehow, I think death is not very far away.
Curse that dog! Poor brute.
A vision of the wondrous sea of sleep sweeps across my sight. I know that I shall stay on here, whatever happens. I was rising from my chair, without the least intention. Something was impelling me toward the garden door. I wished to stop, but could not. Some immutable power was opposed to my will. In a mechanical way, I watched my hand go forward and undo the bolts, entirely without my volition. I fought, dumbly, the while, then my own foot was pushing back the lower. The last fastening came free, and with it, the last of my strength. Darkness took me.
Rover! Rover, come!
Fancy.
God, thou knowest, thou must know, that death is better, aye, better 1,000 times than this.
Well? Was he mad? Was he mad?
No.
As I rolled into my blankets, the old garden's odd fear grew into conviction that Tonneson was right.
What do you say to having another look at,
Nothing!
Sorry, old chap, if I was a bit short with you earlier today. But I would not go there again, for anything that you could offer me. Ugh! Good sport, Source? Do you know anything of an old garden and a great pit and a lake down the river?
Or a great house thereabouts? No, Source. I know nothing of it.
The fairies, Source, or something queer. I heard it as a gossoon and can remember nothing particular.
Teach more.
Teach more. Talanson.
Look here. Just take a walk round the village while we dress and find out something if you can.
It's all in bed the lazy divils is, Sor. Oh, well, sit down and have something to eat with us.
The ancient man told me that, in his youth, there stood a great house in the center of the gardens, where now is left only that fragment of ruin. Empty it was, years before his birth, shunned by the people of the village, as it had been shunned by their fathers. All that was said of it was evil. Then one day a stranger rode through their village and turned off down the river toward the house. Some hours afterward, he rode back toward Ardrahan. 3 months or so later, he reappeared with an elderly woman and laden donkeys. Since that time no one, save the carrier who brought monthly supplies from Ardrahan, ever saw either of them. Then one day the carrier came back in an extraordinary state of excitement, saying the house had disappeared bodily. The villagers marched out and found everything just as he had described.
his identity is, as he seems to have desired, buried forever. That same day, we left the lonely village of Creighton. We have never been there since. Sometimes, in my dreams, I see that enormous pit. The noise of the water rises upward, and blends in my sleep with other and lower noises.